Welcome back to another segment of La Platica with Dr. Jose Leyba. Today we're bringing you this program thanks to Latino USA TV and Arizona Barrio Stories, where we try to capture the pulse of our community through the lens of great leaders that we have been interviewing and people that live and grew up in our barrios here in Phoenix. Today I'm really honored to have Dr. Luis Olivas, or Dr. O as he's well known, who has mentored so many individuals that are now in corporate business, small business, and contributing to this economy. He's an icon, highly respected, was offering datos on the demographics of Latinos back in the day. Wasn't very popular, and I know that we at first only the Latino venues were hearing you, but then everybody started hearing him. So welcome, Dr. O. How are you today?
Muchas gracias. Muy bienvenidos a todos. Doing fabulous.
Good, good.
I like to tell people I'm living the dream.
That's great. Well, he's done so many things in his life. In addition to being an ASU, he's also in the National Guard. He's been a great contributing member of the Post 41 Legion here in Phoenix. But tell us about growing up here in the barrios in Phoenix. What was that like, and what did you learn?
Wow, what a journey. I'm a fifth generation Phoenician, born and raised in Phoenix. And if you know anything about our history, we didn't become a state until 1912.
Right.
So people often say, well, how can you be a fifth generation? I like to tell people my family was here before the border crossed us.
Exactly.
And so it's been a very enriching environment growing up in our barrio, in our community. I grew up on 3rd Street and Lincoln, 2 blocks north of La Marqueta.
Right.
So we were never empty for fruit and vegetables. It was an easy reach across the fence to help yourself to some free fruit, free vegetables, and that added to your diet, needless to say. But exciting times. Central Park, Grant Park, where I learned how to swim, and it evolved. It evolved as such.
Wow, well, that's fascinating that here you've such humble beginnings, right? And then you become a leader in education here in the state and the country. So what was it about your upbringing or your parents that motivated you to get an education? Because you also are a veteran, so how did you combine those two?
My parents. My dad retired from the city of Phoenix as a driver of a garbage truck. And he insisted on the discipline of getting up early and going to work, or in his case, for us, going to school. And so that led, in essence, to why go to school. Propagated by my mom, who insisted your only way out and to succeed, that you won't have to drive a truck, and there's nothing wrong with truck drivers. But she saw a lot in us, and encouraged us, if you may, reading with her, reading for her. And eventually she had a beautiful script signature teaching us how to write. And so it started in the home. It evolved. Strong representation from parents who never had that education. My dad was a 3rd grade education. My mom, 8th grade. She claimed she had the GED, but my tia Armida, her sister, used to say, in Bustera, she doesn't have a GED. But needless to say, that's where the championship came out in education. Fabulous teachers, fabulous coaches, and evolving then into when I went into high school.
You're at Phoenix Union, correct?
Phoenix Union High School, 7th Street in Van Buren when it existed. Miss Cole was my history teacher, and I just loved the way she introduced everything, got us going. It just wasn't sitting there and reading, it was discussing the history. And back then I knew I wanted to be a teacher, wanted to be an educator. So when I graduated in 1965, 899 seniors graduating in the class of 65. I knew a handful of them. And then I had that opportunity to go directly into Arizona State University as a freshman. The majority of the students that I went to school with, and friends and comadres, started at the community college, PC, the Poor People's College, we used to call it Phoenix College. So it evolved into being an educator, knowing the segments of education, what it's about, and how it helps our community. And then seeing the leaders in our community and asking the question, why aren't there more people in the city council that look like us, that speak like us, that el español? Why aren't there more police officers, more firefighters, more medical doctors, and so forth? So it was that evolution in the early 60s And in 65, I find myself as a freshman at Arizona State University, going into business.
Now, you must have faced a lot of challenges because, first of all, most of the Latinos that I know of at that age, that era, were pushed into education, sociology, psychology. So to be in business, I'm sure you faced obstacles that help you then see the vision for working with the Hispanic Business Students Association, which will have its 50th anniversary this coming year.
My first obstacle, believe it or not, was when I was a freshman at Phoenix Union High School. My counselor, Mr. Liberante was his name, said, "Louis, I have everything planned out for you. You're going to go into auto mechanics. And your sophomore, junior, senior year, you're going to work on cars. You're going to listen to radio and you're going to drive them."
Right.
And I remember saying, "I don't want to be an auto mechanic." And he looked at me and he said, "Well, then what do you want to be?" I said, "I have no idea." So he said, "Well, then you don't need me as a counselor." That was my story.
Right.
But I had the right teachers and coaches that encouraged me then.
Right.
And so leading into business at the university, as a business major, retail management, I discovered that where the money was, you could drive a new car, you could wear a coat and tie to work. And by the time I finished my senior year, I decided that's not for me.
Right.
I had to work weekends, evenings when the retail stores were open,
Correct.
never got to see family and friends. So instead I went to education and never looked back. I did my student teaching at Carl Hayden High School and then went to teach at Alhambra High School business subjects.
Wow.
That's how I stayed involved working on my master's, jumping to Scottsdale Community College, the first and the youngest Latino
I'm sure.
in the Maricopa Colleges teaching business. Leaving there, working in a financial institution called Western Savings and Loan as the Director of Executive Development and Training. Completed my master's, my doctorate, and eventually went to work with the City of Phoenix as a training administrator, and then recruited to ASU in 1979 to be a Director of the Center for Executive Development in the College of Business and a professor in business, working your way through.
Well, tell me, I hear so many students out there, when they call you Dr. O, it's not only con respeto, pero con mucho amor, cariño, because you have nurtured so many of these individuals. Where did that come from, and what satisfaction do you derive from that?
Fascinating experience. Put myself back in 1979. And I'm assistant professor in the College of Business. There's a lady, Professor Nelda Garcia was her name. One day walked into my office, my first year. She said, "Sígame." Where are we going? We're going to a meeting. And so we went to this meeting, and there's 4 or 5 Hispanic Mexicano students. Back then we were Mexican.
Sure.
So there were 5 Mexican students there. And she introduced me as the co-advisor to the Hispanic Business Students Association.
So you kind of volunteered, right? You were volunteered.
And so 2 years later, she leaves to go to the University of Texas at Austin. And I became the advisor of HBSA.
Wow.
Fascinating experience, because now you're interacting with this incredibly talented community of students, now Hispanic students, whose desires or wishing was to get into business, go into graduate schools, going into a PhD program, and then becoming someday the medical doctors that we now know today, dentists, restaurant owners, bar owners, becoming attorneys. There's nothing like fulfilling my corazón by walking into an environment where I recognize the students, they recognize me, and we get to share where are you, what's going on. As an educator, you all know, there's nothing like it. It's not in the pocketbook, but it's what you feel in the alma. About what is it like really to be an educator. And I still consider it a sacred privilege to be an educator, to intersect the lives of all these students that we get to work with.
Well, and I think that's something what we're trying to do here at Arizona Barrio Stories is La Platica is all about education, and so to have such humble leaders that face those challenges and still are giving back today, even though you're retired. Tell me about, as we close, what your final goal or legacy you may want that to be.
I'm still on that journey.
Okay.
We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of HBSA this April, and where we're gathering 400 of our alum, of past presidents, where they've been, where they're at, and how they're leaders now in communities, serving as presidents of community-based organizations, as business owners. And still, it's a ride that's incredible. One of the most humbling experiences, last year I was notified that the College of Business was creating, in my name, the Dr. Lou Olivas Endowed Chair.
Right.
So there's now an endowed chair that has been created, my name, and the first person sitting in that endowed chair, her name is Veronica Viena. She's a professor of supply chain. And that's the ultimate of recognitions that anyone can imagine as a professor. And so having served in the military and the Air National Guard, now a member of American Legion Post 41, an active member, helping with fundraising events, serving as the president of the Victoria Foundation, the Pete Seeger Victoria Foundation, and providing scholarship to students. So it's an evolving journey. I'm not there yet, and as I keep telling my students, and I remember, I continue to tell myself, I'm not there yet.
Right.
And so there's so much to do in our community. Thank you for this grand opportunity to share my experiences about what it's like as a fifth-generation Phoenician and as an educator still on his journey.
Right. Well, thank you, Dr. O. This is Dr. Jose Leyba with a special journey. I think we're all on that journey, and I would encourage us educators to continue the legacy of this individual that we love and respect here in Arizona. Once again, Jose Leyba, hasta pronto. Till next time. Thank you very much.